Well, our role, we were the first initial response to the fire. This was actually in Fire District 7 territory, but we got paged to it to the wrong location. We were paged to it clear down here, and when I got there first and confirmed with KitCom there was no fire here, I had them go back and reconfirm where the address, and the fire was clear up here. So I had to turn all my trucks around and go back this way up there, so I gave the fire more head start to get going. So it was my initial engines, 2 engines and a tender that were onto the fire scene first. I knew within 90 seconds we were going to lose it. It was that intense. The wind was blowing too hard. The fire was coming up the hillside way too fast, too much heat, smoke. We put about 6,000 gallons of water over the side to it, and most of it was coming right back up at us. And then the first fireball came up the side and went right over the top of the big engine onto the hillside. And that's started the whole game going then. So when it did that, that's when the fire jumped here and then just took off, racing across here. It rapidly taxed all the county resources here within like 90 minutes. I mean, we were calling for aid from all the different counties that we could and declaring state mob and everything, and everybody was hustling to try to get some resources in there to help slow it down at least. We knew we weren't going to stop it. So and then our next deal was just get out ahead of the fire and get people out of the way and livestock, because we weren't going to have enough resources to stop it. And that was our main thrust during the night, was just getting people out of the way, stock. If we could make a stop somewhere around the house, we would do that. But then we had to let some homes go because it was just too dangerous. Plus the fire was running so fast you couldn't even get to the resident quick enough. It was an instant nightmare for all of us. And when that first fireball came up over the truck, we had 3 different ones in about 10 minutes. And that's when I had to call for my crews to pull out, get on back out of the fire path there. So, but when the first one hit the hillside up there and started racing up to all those houses up there on top of the hill, you know, that was just a gut-wrenching feeling that I couldn't even call them down up there to tell them to get out of their homes quick enough. So, but fortunately, some DNR people and the sheriff's department were doing a fantastic job already behind me in the smoke up there, and they were alerting people and getting them to move and that. So it was just a miracle we didn't have people get hurt, period, whether they were firefighters or the private citizens, let alone lose hardly any livestock. My whole district is volunteers, so fortunately I had already recalled some, because District 7 had already was in fighting 2 other wildland fires, and things weren't adding up right anyway. I just had a bad feeling things were going to go bad. I was just on the phone with my DNR counterpart. We were just getting things lined up for extra protection and that, and when the first alarm went out. I had, at that initial response there, I think I had 5 people total. And then 1 state department highway person there helping also.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So when the fire, I mean, you're saying it physically jumped your engines. How did that feel?
Amazing and terrifying, because it was just, I was surprised it didn't bounce off the top of the truck, but it went up high enough to get over it, up to the hill. So it was just, I thought it was just a fluke for that one, but after the 3rd one, that was it. It was time to get out of there. And then by then, too much smoke was being generated. We couldn't hardly breathe, and we had to pull. So, but it was bad. I knew I had resources coming, you know, but you know, it was going to be a long fight. So, and then it just continued on all night long, and then eventually I wound up over at Sunlight Waters the next morning real early with another task force getting ready, because the fire had jumped the river by then, and so we were getting ready for it to come up through that one. Unfortunately, State Mob Resources had finally come on scene, and they came in and replaced us before the fire came in. So most of my people were off that line before the big fire hit up there, and we lost all the homes. So I've had Sunlight Waters burn before, and we only lost 2 residents then. This time we lost close to a little over 20 of them. So it was just a matter of not enough planes, not enough crews, and not enough engines this time around, because the fire front was so big all the way around. We were more or less chased down Highway 10 like several times during the first 4 hours. I mean, we were pushed. We had to keep moving the IC post and everything because the fire kept catching up with us. As far as regrouping, for my district, my people didn't come off the line until noon the next day. And then we were able to come back to station and regroup and rest and that. And by then, the State Mob Resources were kicking in and stuff. So there wasn't much for us to do. Our job was to get ready for another initial attack if something else broke out behind all this or somewhere else. Initial attack is the worst part because you don't know what you're driving into when you first get into it. But as soon as we drove up, we knew we were done. I mean, the fire was just moving hard, and the amount of smoke it was putting up, the wind was already up there around 30 mile an hour, 30, 35. You know, I think the general winds were running about 15, 20, but fire generates its own wind also on top of that, which compounds it. And it was just too much. Just way too much. Too much heat, too much smoke. And yeah, it was a lost cause real quick.